How do you achieve real meaningful learning when you've only got a little bit of time? Hey, in this video, I'm going to share with you 3 important steps for creating a powerful short session, anything from like 5 or 7 minutes up to like maybe 15 or 20 minutes, but a session that has enormous impact. Stay tuned to learn those 3 steps. It'll help you make your next meeting, convention, or retreat so much better, particularly when you want to create real impact in just a short amount of time. Hey there, my name is Josh Freeberg, and I work as a transformational emcee. I help communities and companies to create events like retreats and conferences that have real impact because they're connected and collaborative and create environments of peer-to-peer learning. I'm a certified Xchange Approach guide based off of Appreciative inquiry at a Case Western Reserve University. We help create meaningful human connection at speed and scale. Hey, if you're interested in that kind of thing, would love it if you would take a second to subscribe and maybe drop down in the comments what you'd like to learn more about how to create more connected and collaborative events. Well, in this video today, we're going to talk through how we can take advantage of really short sessions. Perhaps you have a conference coming up and you want to make sure there's enough time that we can actually create learning experiences, maybe between speakers or between other types of presentations, where we're allowing people to self-discover, to learn, and to commit to action after our event so that the learning actually has an impact out in the world, out in the marketplace. But it's sometimes difficult to do if you don't have, 45 minutes or an hour to really let something cook. So how can we do that in a really brief time frame? And so I'm going to share with you is 3 things that I always think about when I'm designing it. I'm going to give you a specific example of how I train productivity. I was a certified One Thing trainer for the book The One Thing, written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And in that process, learned a lot of techniques for helping people not just learn stuff in their brain head, but actually turn it into action. It's my conviction that that like information without action is entertainment. It's just entertainment. And so what we want to do is actually teach people in a way that they can take action on it and allow their lives to be changed, right? This is why we call it transformation, is that they take their formation and they actually change it into something else. And that's how we get to transformation. Well, how are we going to do that if we only have a few minutes, right? If you've only got 7-8 minutes, but you want to have a really nice learning. This, by the way, works really well for meetings, right? Say you have your typical weekly sales meeting within your team, but you want to have some teaching as part of it. Well, instead of taking up 40 minutes of the meeting with a teaching, you can actually do little bite-sized pieces. And I've found actually that these short sessions can have a bigger impact. The temptation when you have a long session is to say everything you think about a topic. And before you know it, you've told people 14, 18 tricks and hacks for how to succeed, when in fact, one would have been much stronger, right? Just one sharp, clearly defined idea. Okay, so let's get through our 3 steps for how you can achieve meaningful learning in a quick session. The first thing you want to do actually is to invite learning from the audience. Put yourself in a position of curiosity and invite learning from them. How do we do that? We use an opening question for self-learning. Use an opening question for self-learning. So let's say that I'm going to teach on how to use effective time blocking to be more productive. How to use effective time blocking to be more productive. And the main idea that I want to get across is something about like scheduling, blocking out time for it, about having a physical space for it that's oriented toward productivity. Before I tell them, though, I'm actually going to ask a question to allow the self-learning to bubble up. What would that look like? I might invite a question like, think of a time in the last 6 months when you had to be really, really productive for a short amount of time, maybe an hour or two. What did you do to make sure that you were most productive? What was like your secret for creating that productivity, right? So grab your notes and write down that's a quick couple words that capture that story. Maybe it was like, complete my taxes, finish the TPS report, get the invoices out, right? Whatever it was. What was a project or a brief task you had to get done where you needed like 1 or 2 hours of extreme focus? And what did you do to bring that focus? And let them write that down. Then invite them to get into groups, small groups of 2, 3, 4 people, and share their story and their key trick for being highly productive. When we design a question that points to the topic we're going to teach on, what people learn is they actually already know more about it than they think, right? And whatever we teach them is actually just a continuation of something they already believe. Whereas if we just start with lectures, see, people hold these ideas around the topic. They're like, I already know how to be productive. I'm pretty productive. I'm a top 20%er. I'm already good at what I do. You introduce a new idea, it actually competes with their existing content. And so then they're going to evaluate it and go, I don't know if that works. That seems dumb. Or maybe I'll try it. I don't know. They're not bought in. But when we start off with, hey, what do you do already that makes you extremely productive? When you choose it, and then we're going to allow them to do is say, hey, I'm already good at this, but I could be great at it if I do it more consistently. Something like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use an opening question to create self-learning. Now, the last part of this opening question process is to invite a few voices in the room to share their ideas about, in this case, how to be really productive for 2 hours. It's important as a leader, as a teacher, as a facilitator, that we make sure that we are co-learners in that moment, that we're actually able to listen to that, to take it in. And here's a little caution for you when you start getting those responses when somebody says like, oh, I lock my office door, or I go to the public library where it's quiet and I'm away from the office, right? Whatever it is avoid the temptation to +1 it. Avoid the temptation to go, oh yeah, that's really good, and then add to it. It actually dismisses. Whereas if you just go, that's exceptional. You know, Bonnie, thanks so much for sharing that with us. So Bonnie says she goes to the public library where there's no distractions. That's brilliant. And just let it stand on its own, and people can take it in without us having to always look like the genius, the expert in front of the room. Okay, step 1, use an opening question to create self-learning. Step 2, limit the teaching to one sentence, Now, hold on just a second. I'm not saying that you literally stand up there and say, time block to be more effective, right? Or time block to get higher productivity. The end, right? What I would say is, in the next 3 minutes, I'm going to share with you a big idea. And that big idea is use time blocking to be more productive. What does that mean? And then I'm going to take a couple minutes to share what that means, what some of the key elements of it are. As I do it, I'm going to repeat that sentence, though, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Use time blocking to be more productive. Use time blocking to be more productive. And the way we design this, we literally will, as we're creating what we're going to speak on, put a line at the top of your paper that has that one sentence in it. And then I draw a little funnel around it, a little picture of a funnel. I learned this from a professor at Whitworth College years and years ago. And that sentence becomes a filter sentence that says anything I say over the next few minutes has to make it through that filter in order to get into this conversation, right? And it might be the most brilliant, funny, interesting, clever thing you've ever heard, thought, or said. If it doesn't point to that sentence, it doesn't make it in. It's okay. You can use it next time. When we can decide, though, to be super clear about the one sentence that we want to share, then guess what? People will walk away actually having learned it, actually having learned it. Instead of, hey, what was it we talked about at the meeting last week? I don't remember, right? But if you have one sentence, use time blocking to be more productive. By the way, next week we can say, hey, who used time blocking? Who found it to be more productive? We're actually putting it out as part of our, something we're going to go out and do. Keep it super simple. Avoid the temptation to say everything you know about a topic. Think of it this way. If I could only say one sentence to them, what would that sentence be? And then everything about it is just going to reinforce that idea. By the way, if your session gets cut for time, right? You thought you were going to have 12 minutes. Now you got 6. Don't cut the exercise. Cut your lecturing portion. Limit that. And just say one or two big ideas. 2 paragraphs, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And allow the self-learning, the peer-to-peer learning to take effect. So, point 2, limit your teaching to just one sentence. And here's the third thing, is use experiments to create action. Use experiments to create action. What does that mean? At the end of a short session, right, a quick session like this, what we want to do is help people get into action right away. We want to help them actually implement on what we're talking about. There is more learning that happens when people go do stuff and then reflect on the experience of it than anything else. So often people learn great things at conferences, at meetings, at retreats, and they're in their notebook and they've got really smart notebooks, but don't take action. Let's help them use experiments to create action. So what's an experiment? An experiment is where I'm going to commit to doing an action not knowing what the outcome will be. That's why I like to use the word experiments, because sometimes we feel like we have to commit to action and it has to produce the result that we want before we'll do it. With an experiment, particularly with an idea that's new to our people, an experiment allows them to do it, to give it a try, not knowing what would happen. Now, some of you just got triggered when I used the word try. Maybe you've been in a corporate environment where they said, we don't try, we do, right? We learned from Yoda, do or do not. There is no try. And I get it. I actually understand the meaning behind that. I'm going to try to use time blocking this week. If somebody says that, they're like, they ain't going to use time blocking, right? They're going to use that. They've already given themselves an out, an excuse. What I'm saying is, it sounds a little different when I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try that time blocking thing. That sounds really interesting. I'm curious how it'll work. Well, that person is going to actually do it. They just don't know if it works or not. And so experiments give us permission to take bold action because we're not committed to it working or not working. And here's the other thing about an experiment. The goal of an experiment is to learn something, right? When we think about experiments coming from like the world of scientists in their mad laboratories, right? They're trying to learn something. That's their primary goal, is not to succeed. In fact, within the scientific method, they design experiments to try and disprove their hypothesis. They actually try to fail. So what we want to do is create the opportunity for people to experiment, to go out and do something, not knowing what the result will be, so that they can learn, so they can grow, so they could try something new they've never tried before. And this becomes real action. Now, one quick hint on this is in real time, in the room, invite them to pull out their calendar and actually schedule when they're going to run the experiment. So again, what would this look like in our example of using time blocking to be more productive? Is we would start by saying, hey, think of a time in the last 6 months when you've been like super productive. And what is like one key learning or one secret ingredient that allowed that to be really productive? I'm going to put people into groups, let them talk about it. Then they're going to share out, and I'm going to learn from somebody something maybe I had never even heard before, right? Which is that they, took snacks in the room with them, and they said they weren't going to leave until they had finished their 2 hours, right? And somebody else is going to say, you know what I did is I actually booked a hotel on the beach, and I went down there, locked myself in, and worked on the project for 4 hours till it was finished. Super cool, right? Wow, that's really interesting. Then I'm going to say, I'm going to limit my teaching to one sentence. I'm going to say, hey, today I'm going to talk to you about how to use time blocking to be more productive. Here's a couple things about time blocking that are really helpful. Make sure it's in your calendar. Treat it like an appointment, and set up your physical space to protect your time block. All right. And then we'll say, so right now what we're going to invite you to time block for this week. And what is like one task that you know you've needed to get done? It's been on your to-do list for 3 weeks now, 7 weeks now. You never seem to get to it. Well, let's get your first 2 hours of it knocked out. When are 2 hours this week that you could book it for? And by the way, be prepared to turn to somebody today and say, I will time block. I'm going to give this thing a try, see what happens. I'm going to do it on Thursday from noon to 2, right? Something like that. And then give everybody a chance to do it. Open up your calendar, put it in there. And you can see how this is a really short session. That whole session might be 7-8 minutes tops, right? You can do it. You could take 12 if you want, but you could do that session in 7 or 8 minutes. And it would lead to actual change, whereas lecturing people for an hour on productivity hacks may or may not have any impact on moving the needle. But this simple system of using an open question for self-learning, limiting your teaching to one sentence, and using experiments to create action, these 3 steps will help you achieve real, meaningful learning in a quick session. Hey, if you'd like to get more content about how to create powerful meetings and gatherings that are actually transformative, I'd love for you to take a second, it's only one click, to subscribe to this channel. And if there's something you'd like to learn more about, send me a message or drop down in the comments below about what you'd like to learn more about and how you can make your sessions more powerful and elevate your events.